The man was locked alone on the rooftop, struggling in vain against the cursed handcuffs. To make matters worse, a horde of zombies was already climbing up to the roof. The locked door became the final line of defense, but no one knew how long it would hold. Finally, he spotted a saw in the distance and tried to use his belt to pull it over. Whether he could escape was left to fate. Meanwhile, Rick glanced behind him and noticed Merle was missing. T-Dog confessed that he had dropped the key, and everyone else remained silent, unwilling to speak up for someone like Merle. Glenn, however, was thoroughly enjoying his first time driving a sports car. At the survivors' camp, Rick's wife, Lori, was cutting their son Carl's hair. Glenn and his group had also come from this camp. Shane was there, entertaining Lori and Carl with jokes, creating a cozy family atmosphere. Lori and Shane had become very close, and their relationship had advanced significantly. Soon, Glenn arrived at the camp in his car, announcing that everyone was safe except for the unfortunate Merle. Rick's truck followed, and the survivors reunited with their loved ones. Amy hugged her sister Andrea tightly, knowing that any separation in this world could be their last. The other survivors also embraced their families, celebrating another narrow escape. Carl, however, stood aside, crying softly. Every reunion reminded him of his missing father. Lori comforted him as best as she could. After a brief rest, Rick finally stepped out of the truck. Shane saw him immediately, feeling a surge of complex emotions as Rick's best friend who had been with his wife. Carl turned and saw his father, their eyes locking in an emotional moment. Rick lifted Carl into his arms, then embraced Lori, grateful to have found them alive. That night, the group gathered to share their recent experiences. Shane recounted the effort it took to save Lori and Carl, and Rick expressed his deep gratitude. They discussed Merle, and Rick promised to take responsibility for informing Merle's brother, Daryl, who was out hunting. Late that night, Rick felt a profound sense of peace being reunited with his family. Shane, however, watched the tent where Rick slept, knowing he wouldn't sleep at all. The next morning, Rick slept in, waking up to find everyone busy with their tasks. He was talking to Lori when they heard Carl scream from the woods.
Son.
Rick led the charge, with the other survivors grabbing their weapons and following him. They found a zombie feasting on a deer, its backside pierced by 2 crossbow bolts. Without hesitation, they attacked the zombie until an old man beheaded it. The fact that a zombie had ventured into the mountains for food was unprecedented, puzzling everyone. Just then, they heard another noise from the woods. They readied themselves as a man with a crossbow emerged, cursing that his deer had been ruined by the zombie. He kicked the zombie's corpse in frustration.
Motherless, poxy bastard!
The old man with the hat tried to calm him down but was met with a harsh rebuke. The man was Daryl, Merle's brother, whose temper was even worse than Merle's. He suggested cutting away the bitten parts of the deer and using the rest for food, but the others shook their heads, fearing infection. Suddenly, the zombie's mouth twitched, and in a fit of anger, Daryl shot an arrow through its head, mocking the group for not knowing to aim for the head. Rick watched Daryl, pondering how to break the news about his brother Merle.